Another way to create musical flow and smooth transitions is to use ambient pads. If you don't know what pads are, they're basically soft, floaty keyboard tones that are played in the background to create a particular atmosphere. Ambient pads can either be played live by a keyboardist, or you can purchase ambient pads from a variety of producers. We use pre-recorded pads in addition to live pads at our church most often, in between songs, under teaching moments, scripture readings, and prayers, and also as a tool to smoothly change keys. I'll show you some examples of how pads can be used. I've purchased some pre-recorded pads from worshiptutorials.com and coresoundpads.com. They both sell a variety of keys and tones that can be downloaded into software like Ableton Live, Prime by Loop Community, or Playback by Multitracks. Here's an example of what they sound like. Here are some soft pads in the key of C. These purchase pads from worshiptutorials.com just drone in the same root chord for 20 minutes, but you can play other instruments on top of the pads to create more movement. You can let these pads play under an entire song in the same key, or you can use them in between songs. Listen to what it sounds like when you crossfade from the key of C to the key of F. It's super smooth. So pre-recorded pads can work well under songs and in between songs, but we can also have a keyboardist play the pads. Here's an example of how to play the pads. Let's stick to the key of C for this example. Every major chord consists of 3 main notes that make up that chord. The 1, which in this case would be the root note, C, and the 3, which is an E, and the 5 note, which is a G. And these 3 notes together make up a C chord. I know this is very basic, but hang with me. One of the biggest goals when playing pads is to create movements that are smooth and uncluttered. What I mean by that is when you switch chords when playing pads, I'd recommend a couple things. Number 1, figure out how to switch chords by always leaving one note playing from the previous chord. This would require you to play the inversions of some chords to create a smooth movement. Inversions are basically chords that are variations of the 1, 3, and 5 notes that we talked about earlier. Any combination of C, E, and G will create a C chord. It could be E, G, C, or G, C, and E. In one of the previous videos, I spoke about chord movements that work nicely with each other. In general, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord work very nicely together. So in the key of C, the 1 chord is C. Then the 4 chord is F. And the 5 chord is G. So let's create some pads using those 3 chords, but we'll create inversions of the chords to minimize the movement of the notes. So here's a C. And then we'll move to an inverted F, and then go back to C, and then move to an inverted G. Now that we have that movement down, let's subtract the middle note from each chord. This provides a nice open sound and once again minimizes the notes that are moving as you change chords. Listen.